And what else happened? The lawyer that that represented a bunch of people for he represented tons of indigenous people against a lawsuit against Chevron, I believe it was, for a oil field spill, where basically Chevron had an oil spill that affected a bunch of like indigenous land and forestry in the United States, and he fought against Chevron back in the early 1990s.
Oh, was this a young guy? Was he a young lawyer?
Yeah, and then they're like demonizing him. He just got sentenced to fucking 6 months in prison for contempt of court. And it's insane. Like, that's never happened. Fucking this guy literally just represented people who lived on indigenous land who got affected by an oil spill from Chevron, and now he's going to prison for contempt of court for 6 months. Fucking Jeffrey Epstein didn't even go to prison. He got a fucking sweetheart deal in Florida for fucking molesting kids on his first go around.
Yeah, and still fucked that up.
And still fucked that up.
And that's how sick he is. He couldn't even stop.
It just shows that fucking America is run by corporations. And these corporations will get whatever the fuck they want.
Did you ever read the book The Pelican? Not the movie, but did you ever read The Pelican Brief?
No. Never even heard of it.
Oh, it was.
I'm an idiot. I don't know anybody.
And it was John Grisham. It was John, but it was before your time. But it was basically it was a law firm represented this. It was like an oil interest, and they wanted to go into the Everglades and drill for oil in the Everglades. But because there were pelicans, this certain type of pelican, and they were endangered, they weren't going to be allowed to do it. They knew that their case was going up to the Supreme Court. Like, they tried to do it, they got stopped by this young couple, or like a young lawyer had stopped them. But he'd won the case, and the case was going to be decided in the Supreme Court. But they knew these two Supreme Court judges are a problem for us. They're going to vote for the pelicans, and we're not going to be able to drill. But if they died, and if they both ended up dying, and there were two new justices appointed that were in our favor, we'll win the Pelican. We'll win the lawsuit, and we'll be able to get billions of dollars in oil. We'll be able to drill. So they actually assassinate two sitting Supreme Court judges in order to have these new judges placed in their place. It's a great book.
When did this happen?
No, it didn't happen. It's just called The Pelican Brief. But I'm saying it's a whole corporate greed type thing. It's not a real thing. It's fiction, but it's a great story. They made a movie out of it.
Sounds
Denzel
like something
Washington
that actually would happen.
Yeah.
Right, that's the whole thing.
Pelican Brief.
Well, there's tons of stuff like that. Like, for instance, Tom Clancy wrote a book called
Splinter Cell.
Well, he wrote tons of them, but
That's a video game that we bought.
I'm pretty sure it's also a book.
Well, what was it? Was it the Dead of Honor? It was Dead of Honor, where there's a Japanese terrorist that crashes a plane into Congress, right? And then, like 10 years later, you've got people crashing planes into buildings. Like, there's like things in these books that were like semi-predicted prior to that. Like, that was a terrorist attack was to use a plane filled with gasoline to crash into Congress, wipe out all of Congress. Instead, these guys hit the World Trade Center, whatever.
When did this book come out?
I want to say it was about 10 years before 9/11.
Wow.
But I mean, that's
we're
you always see
connecting dots here.
Well, I'm not saying there's a connection. I'm just saying that a lot of times these things are.
Well, the 9/11 planes, those all of those planes they had flight paths. They were going to Los Angeles.
Yeah, so they were filled with oil.
They were
filled
full
with
of fuel. Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, whatever. Lots of stuff going on. But yeah, so I mean, he predicted the whole. Hey, did you ever read the book Jennifer Government?
I've read like 3 books my whole life.
Okay. Well, if you get locked up for 10 or 12 years, you'll
That's why we have you on
reading.
here, because you read so many books and you're so smart.
Jennifer Government's great. It's like in the future where
I read Go Dog Go.
One fish, two fish.
One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. I read the Cookie Monster cookie book. I only have a few books I read every day.
So in Jennifer Government, Nike ends up doing what they call guerrilla marketing, where they end up hyping up these shoes, saying that there's a limited amount of the shoes. Like we're only producing 10,000 of them, and they're going to have 500 here and 200 in this store, and so people pack the stores, but they don't have 500. They have like 5,000. So by they hype it up, and then what they do to give the book or the shoes street cred, they hire people to kill the first 4 or 5 people that end up getting the shoes. So they shoot them, steal the shoes, and that gives
So much hype.
that gives them street cred, so people want them even more. But they're saying they're limited of maybe 10,000, but really there's like 200,000 or 1 million shoes.
Yeah.
But people are
They're
so
still doing that.
pumped.
That's Supreme. That's what they do.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great book. And you have to pay the police to investigate the murders. So your family gets murdered. You want the person that killed your daughter, you want her found. So you refinance your house, and you have to pay the police to track the people down. Because unless you can't pay for it, you have to pay for crime. You have to pay for it.
And
You
it
have to
all
pay for
comes
the
down to
investigation.
the shoes are made in China.
And the shoes actually are called. I remember they were called Mercuries, and they made them for like $1.75, and they were selling them for like $1,500 or $1,800.
Yeah. The rarity of it is what sells. The harder they are to get, the more people want them.
But the book has
Yeah, it's
all
just
these.
supply and demand. I
Well,
mean,
the book-
that's any typical business.
The book has all these
not
crazy
supply and
things.
demand,
They have
it's-
these crazy things that are happening, and they're happening. Like then it's like that's not that's happening. This is happening. Like these are things that. Yeah, it's called Jennifer Government. I always thought they'd make a movie out of it.
You should make that movie.
There's a lot of books that they should have made movies out of, but they won't because
This one was, you know, what's funny too that you had a barcode. Like, oh no, Jennifer Government has she has a barcode right here. Oh, and your surnames are whoever you work for. So if you worked for Nike, then your name would be Danny Nike. So everybody's named like this guy works for the NRA. It's like his name's Matt NRA. Then you've got, Shane Unemployed. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Right. So
Shane Concrete.
yeah, exactly. That's what. And then when you change your job, you get a new surname.
Huh.
The whole thing is insane. Oh, there are gangs of kids that are like in a gang, and Nike and McDonald's will pay you to tattoo their symbol, or I'm sorry, their emblem. Is it emblem? What would you call it? Logo, whatever, on you. And so you're basically with a gang. And people are getting beat up because they're going into McDonald's and they're like, you McDonald's or Burger King? I'm going over here to McDonald's. Whoa! And then they jump and they start beating the guy up.
Chick-fil-A, bitch.
Interesting.
Matt, did you watch Squid Games?
No, and everybody told me I have to watch it, and I don't. I do like the concept.
He's the Squid Game director, creator is beefing with LeBron James. Do you know who LeBron James is?
Yeah, I know who LeBron James is.
He's beefing with the
LeBron
creator of
James.
Squid Games because LeBron said the ending
Oh, Flea
was
Flick.
lame. Okay, we got Flea Flicker here. We're watching the Packers game. LeBron said that the ending sucked. The guy should have gotten on the plane and went and saw his daughter. And the Squid Game guy made some sort of statement. It's like, well, you should remake the whole series and do your own ending then, LeBron James. Maybe you'd have,
So now they're just going back and forth.
now they're now
I think that was all there was.
it's
but-
funny. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else, but it's funny that it's like an internet beef now.